welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal, Dahiya, and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues as well. Today, we're going to talk about the social media platforms and addressing citizens' grievances related to those platforms. Now, the central government on Friday notified the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Amendment Rules 2022, making it mandatory for social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc. to comply by the provisions of the Constitution of India. Now, the tweaked IT rules have also paved way for setting up of 3 grievance appellate panels, which will settle issues that users may have against the way social media platforms initially addressed their complaints regarding content and other matters. Now, the grievance committees will be able to review content moderation decisions by social media companies. So, to further understand the rationale and the significance of these new rules and the modifications and, of course, the grievance appellate committees being put in place there, we have with us a distinguished panel today. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with we're joined by Mr. Rajeev Chandrasekhar, Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology with the Government of India. Welcome, Mr. Chandrasekhar, to the show. And we also have with us right now Mr. Brijesh Singh. He is the Additional Director General of Police in the Government of Maharashtra, with the Government of Maharashtra. And one more guest, Mr. Dubey, will also join us soon. But let me first begin with you, Mr. Chandrasekhar, since you're the helm of affairs. Let's first try and understand, what is new about the new tweaks? One, of course, is putting in place the grievance appellate committees, that is GACs. 3 GACs have been formed. The question is why these GACs have been formed, and 2, how will they work?
So, Vishal, thank you for having me and thank you for covering this. The background to this, the GACs being notified yesterday, the 27th of January, is that a few weeks ago, the new amended IT rules were notified. And the IT rules represent a forward movement from the IT rules that were notified in February 2021. In these new IT rules, in these amended IT rules, we had promised something called the Grievance Appellate Committee. And the Grievance Appellate Committee was an institution that has been specifically designed into this new emerging architecture of cyber laws to address the issue of accountability of platforms to consumers and digital nagriks. Mm-hmm. The Grievance Appellate Committee, and obviously we will, I'm sure you'll ask me further questions on this, is designed to create one very important element of the 3 elements that are the boundary conditions or the principles of all rule-making, law-making for the government, for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, which is openness, safety and trust, and accountability. We believe that these 3 important boundary conditions are the guiding all of what we do for the digital nagriks. And on the specific issue of accountability, which is to make sure that these big platforms, small platforms, foreign platforms, Indian platforms, respect the digital nagriks and create a culture of 100% grievance addressal, we have created these grievance appellate committees, which by the very name represents an appellate jurisdiction or appellate forum for those citizens who are dissatisfied or do not get their grievances addressed at the platform level, which is the first cause of grievance addressal.
Okay. So in terms of, the way it will work, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that so far the mechanism was that I, as a user of any of the social media platforms, if I raise a complaint with them and I'm not satisfied with their response, then so far the recourse for me was to approach a court of law, approach a relevant high court or a sessions court or perhaps, the highest court as well, depending upon the case there is. But now I will have the option of approaching these grievance, appellate committees. Does that mean that I will not be going to the court? I'll first go to the GACs and then go to the court, or I have the both options open?
Yeah, no, look, a citizen of India is always free under our constitution and under law to approach the courts if they choose to do so. But the GAC is being designed as a way to make this very citizen-friendly, very fast, very nimble. And since the whole design of the Grievance Appellate Committee is digital and it is online, it prevents the digital nagrik from having to engage a lawyer and create these voluminous documents that are required to go through a court process. So this is a much simpler way to get grievance appeals addressed. It's an institution that has been created. It is a totally digital institution. It's going to have an online footprint and an online presence. The 3 GACs that have been notified will never have an office. People will never go meet them. These are all things to be done through the digital medium. And if they are dissatisfied, either the platform or the citizen is dissatisfied with what the GAC determines, they are always there's always the right to go to court.
Okay. Now, one very important aspect here, Mr. Chandrasekhar, and which all of us would want to understand and know is how has the industry reacted to it? By industry, I mean the intermediaries, the social media platforms. And what's their involvement here? That is one, because the reports indicate that on the issue of, self-regulatory body, not all the social media platforms are at the same, frequency or same wavelength.
No, look, everything that we do is arrived at through a process of extensive consultation with all stakeholders. And as you agree that the stakeholders of the internet includes consumers and the platforms. So this is not just about the industry. This is not just about the platforms. And certainly it is clear that industry and platforms that have, in a sense, enjoyed the lack of any scrutiny or accountability from their consumers or to the consumers are not going to necessarily jump up and down in joy when we start tightening their obligations and making sure that their obligations to their consumers are a lot more rule-driven and a lot less from a charity point of view. So I think there was some initial resistance, but when we have explained to them that the relationship of the government and the industry is not adversarial, both of us are equally interested in making sure that the internet is safe and trusted, and that the consumers of the internet, the digital nagriks, our digital nagriks, which are today 83 crores and which will reach 120 crores by 25-26, that the digital nagriks feel safe and trusted and feel that they have a very predictable, definite way of getting their grievances addressed.
Okay.
This is good for industry in the long term. Yes, there was initially some hesitation and there was some mischaracterization of this being an attempt by the government to control the internet and moderate content and etc., etc. But I think people have understood what we are trying to do. We are doing this very transparently. And our mission, our Prime Minister's mission, is that the internet be a force for good. The internet enable millions and crores of our Indian citizens to transform their lives, to access services, public services, private services, and products, and do so in a manner where they believe that the internet is safe and trusted, and the platform that they deal with is accountable to them. So I think as we move forward and understand that these goals are in a sense not adversarial, these goals are shared goals for the industry as the government puts out these things, we will find that there is more and more increasing acceptance of these policies and new framework to make sure that the Indian internet is a safe and trusted space for all our digital nagriks.
The fact, and we've seen it also all through this time, that the process of putting regulatory mechanism when we're talking about digital platforms, or when we're talking about, dealing with data or internet services, it's an evolutionary process, because technology keeps on changing. You have to keep track of various aspects as well. This is one aspect, true. But what else is in the pipeline? What is the ministry and the government as a whole is working upon when we're talking about making internet, as you're pointing out, safe and secure place not only, but also to ensure that it's free and open as well?
No, certainly, Vishal. I will make there's no doubt that the changes are rapid. The very essence of technology, the world that we live in, the internet, is that every corner that you turn around, there's a new challenge or a new opportunity. And the Prime Minister has made it very clear repeatedly that he wants every opportunity for our young Indians that is made available for them to be fully exploited for them to create startups, for them to create new investment opportunities, jobs. And so therefore, the government is playing a role of a enabler. We are essentially laying out the framework, and we are moving swiftly. For example, very shortly, you will find that there is a new notification on permitting online gaming. with the necessary guardrails that prevent betting online. You will see very shortly, we will address the issue of misinformation online. How do we address the issue of misinformation, which is already there in the IT rules, but how do we create a more trusted framework of fact checkers? And down the road, we have just completed the consultation on the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill.
Indeed.
That will go to Parliament, and the Parliament will enact that after debate. And we will certainly, by the end of February, start talking about and bringing to the public for consultation a draft of the new Digital India Act, which will be the supersession or the successor to the 22-year-old IT Act that still regulates the Indian technology and the internet ecosystem. So I think the role of the government of India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is to do everything necessary to create global standard cyber laws, rules, so that our young Indians who are setting the benchmark for the rest of the world continue to have a supportive, encouraging environment, as well as at the same time protecting the rights of both the consumers and citizens of India, as well as provide the government of India and the security agencies the legitimate rights that they seek within this whole internet ecosystem, which also represents a big challenge for them as well.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Chandrasekhar. That looks like, there seems to be a lot of things in pipeline as well. We'll keep a close watch there also, and we would like to hear your views later on those aspects as well. Meanwhile, let me move on to, the other two panelists as well. Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Once again, Mr. Brijesh is still with us. Mr. Singh, you are part of the police force, as part of, the mechanism, the entire process where you must be dealing with a lot of issues vis-a-vis, the social media platforms or complaints regarding from the users regarding social media platforms or the content on those platforms as well. What we need to understand is that these new rules, or rather tweaked IT rules, and specifically the formation of GACs, that is Grievance Appellate Committees, how would that help in the longer process?
One has to understand that there has been a realization across the world that the internet, with all its uses and benefits, has also been a place where a large amount of harm is being perpetrated. And if you look at the slew of legislation since 2019, you see that the United States has passed the Stop Online Sex Trafficking Act. The European Union has recently come up with a Digital Services Act. The UK has come up with an Online Harms Act. And there are like 10 other countries which in the last 2-3 years have come with acts which basically put on the responsibility on social media platforms for preventing harm. Now, as the Honorable Minister has said, that the internet should be a safe place. And also, it should be a place where citizens can voice their opinion while, reaping the fruits of the internet. If you look at India's position in G20, we have been talking of digital public goods. So now, looking at the whole internet in a positive light of digital public goods, it needs to be a safe place. It needs to be a place where there is transparency and there is prevention of harm. In this light, the IT rules, which were notified in 2021 February, are now being completed with the appointment of the grievance committees. So it's a 3-tier structure where initially the role of content removal or moderation has been given to the social media platforms with a timeline. The IT rules specify as to within what time and in what conditions the content should be removed or access to it should be stopped.
Okay.
Also, it talks of evidence preservation. So, for the benefit of citizen, for the benefit of user, for the protection of the consumer, a 3-tiered structure has been laid down, and these grievance committees are the final point in this, where if people are not satisfied, they will be able to approach these committees.
Okay. Mr. Amit Dubey is also with us. He's a cyber expert, data technology expert there as well. Mr. Dubey, we're looking at the issue vis-a-vis the new tweak in IT rules which deal with the social media platforms, and the new tweak puts in place three, GACs, the Grievance Appellate Committees, to look into issues which are raised by the users once they're not satisfied with the response from these social media, intermediaries or platforms there as well. So we would like to understand from you that how significant is this move, and what kind of result will it bring into place? Does this put in place another safety barricade from the user's perspective?
I'm sure it will empower the users a lot because, see, these were open-ended complaints. Those were lying about all these intermediaries for a very long period. And I've been getting this complaint from all of the users that though we have already requested them to remove something or to block a impersonated user, or there are cases of defamation, etc. So they have been complaining it through the proper channel, but no such significant action has been taken. And it was open-ended. So I think with this dedicated panel, we'll have some logical conclusion to these queries. It would be considered as per the Indian norms, first of all. And then these people, those are responsible for taking it to the logical conclusion, will also can penalize the intermediaries if the action has not been taken as per the norms. So I think this was really required. Okay. Otherwise, yes, there's an online portal. People can complain. These complaints are lying there, and they are concluded with this with a generic response that we have done our investigation. We found that it is not violating any norms, and so we are not taking any action. But who is actually the third-party reviewer for these analysis? Nobody. I think this panel will help us to actually take it to next level, okay, and to analyze it with our Indian norms, and we'll see that if it is a complaint from a teenage girl, if it is a complaint from someone who is in a reputed position and he's facing some troll or defamation or unnecessary impersonation or identity theft issues, I think those will be concluded with this panel. Okay. Very fast.
Okay. Does this also mean, Mr. Dubey, that they did this exercise of bringing in a self-regulatory mechanism vis-a-vis the social media platforms, because we've seen not all of them are on the same page, and especially some of the big tech firms there as well. Has there been sort of a lack of enthu on their part, or are there some issues which all of them have not been able to come on a particular platform on, and now all that will be taken care of because the new rules put in place specifically 3 committees to deal with all these issues?
Yeah, so there were multiple issues. Technical issues definitely were there because most of these online complaints were actually processed through their platforms, were processed through bots and AI bots, and they had all these standard regulations as per US norms. So they were not able to consider any such requests as per Indian norms. So there were some changes required and to their platforms. Manual intervention they wanted to reduce as much as they can. So that's why lots of technical development was required. Moreover, because see, sometimes even our law is not very clear for most of these things. Mm-hmm. And it varies from case to case basis. So to expect a quick conclusion to every such request which is coming from anybody, because I can complain about you, I can complain about anybody, and it's not like that. If I'm complaining about someone, the platform should take an action and should remove it because it can hamper freedom of expression as well to some extent. So it was always a very balanced act that they need to play. Most of the time they were giving favors to the expressions to these people who are actually trying to say anything or everything about anyone. So that was the reason this especially grievance panel is required. Otherwise, if you'll rely only on their AI responses, I'm not very happy with their AI responses because the users are not happy. Okay. And they are losing trust with their rectification mechanisms. Even law enforcement agencies, most of these platforms do offer a dedicated law enforcement reporting portal where only law enforcement agencies can request. Even they were having such complaint that it is not timely concluded, the responses are delayed, okay, or sometimes even if they are getting responses, they are not getting satisfactory responses, even if their query is correct or authentic or valid. So I think there were definitely some hiccups from the intermediary side. They were not very encouraging in beginning and not very supportive. And it took too much time actually. Even today we have such complaints, and I think they need to improve a lot.
Okay. Let me, on that point, let me bring in Mr. Singh here because he is part of the law enforcement agency there in Maharashtra. Mr. Singh, two things which, Amit was referring to. One is the response from the social media platforms when when they're interacting or dealing with the law enforcement agencies in terms of the requests made by you or the agency. And also the second part is the legal angle, do you, as a member of the law enforcement agencies, as a senior member, do you believe or agree that the law which is in place right now is enough, or there is still a scope for further improvement?
Primarily, the whole question was these social media platforms agreeing to abide by the law of land. Now, irony was that whenever one went to these social media platforms, in absence of these rules, they talked about their policy guidelines and company guidelines, company policy. So now, in a way, they were placing their company policy above the sovereignty of the nation. Now, this has rectified and finally subjected social media platforms to the law of the land and also created a mechanism to enforce this. Now, if you look closely at the intermediary guidelines of February 2021, as Amit also told, it creates a clear obligation on part of social media intermediaries to assist law enforcement and to take all steps necessary. For example, to preserve evidence. For example, to give information about account creation, to preserve data even after, for 180 days at least, even after the deletion of such profiles. So this enables such kind of data, if it has been used in commission of a crime or perpetration of an offense, to be used as evidence in court of law. Not only that, these guidelines also talk about providing a dedicated nodal officer. All significant social media intermediaries have now a dedicated nodal officer, and law enforcement has a regular liaison through, a directed email. An email ID is declared, it is authorized, and through which they have interactions with these social media platforms where evidence is sought according to law, with due process of law, and then evidence is received.
Okay.
The mechanism is still not perfect. I understand that at still, many places you do not get appropriate evidence, but I feel that it is a step in the right direction.
Okay. Okay. And vis-a-vis the legal framework, you believe there is still a scope for improvement? Of course, it's about technology, evolving technology. We will have to, continuously evolve our regulatory and legal framework as well.
Yes, indeed. If you look at laws around the world, you find that very specific acts have been passed. Let's say for prevention of human trafficking and sex trafficking on the internet. So we can take a leaf from legislations across the world and see to it that harms are prevented and also mechanisms are created to improve the trust and safety in the internet space.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Brijesh Singh and Mr. Amit Dubey as well for sharing your views and insight. As our experts were pointing out, and earlier the Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology, Mr. Rajeev Chandrasekhar, was also pointing out the rationale behind putting in place these tweaks in the IT rules 2022 dealing with the social media platforms, specifically the users' complaints and the way the social media companies or these platforms, intermediaries, have dealt with it. A grievance, appellate committee have been put in place, 3 of them, which will deal with such issues in a digital mode. And of course, there is always a scope for improvement, further evolution, because as we were saying earlier, we're dealing with the evolving technology and we will have to continuously evolve our legal and regulatory framework as well. There are more such things in the pipeline, as the Minister also pointed out. We'll keep a close watch on that and keep on bringing you detailed analysis. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.